Greetings, this is Miss Middleton again. I am going to be going over some of the stuff that you should have done with your atmosphere, the layer of the atmosphere. So far in this section, you've already talked about the composition of the atmosphere, how pressure, air pressure, and density work at this level, lower in the atmosphere. And I just wanted to go over, so after the virtual lab, after learning about the composition of the atmosphere, you guys were supposed to start looking at the different layers of the atmosphere. And specifically, you first looked at the temperature of the atmosphere, the different layers. And I gave you this Google drawing with showing you how temperature changes as you go up through the atmosphere, and how that pretty much gives you your different layers. You then were given a whole bunch of symbols over here, and you were supposed to pop them in here. As you can see, mine got kind of messy because there's not a ton of space. I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit so you guys can take a look at what fell where. But in the troposphere, remember, that's where we live, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. We have a lot of turbulence, we have a lot of like, you have rising air, you have convection going on in this layer, and so you're going to have weather, which means you're going to have different types of clouds. You're going to have flocks of geese. This is where life is in the atmosphere. So it's okay if your troposphere, where we're living, got a little messy because there wasn't a ton of room to put everything. That's okay. The layer above that, the stratosphere, the main things you're going to have is ozone molecules, all right, which, just a reminder, ozone is what is going to protect us from UV radiation, so it's very, very important in the stratosphere layer. It's also going to absorb UV radiation from the sun, like I said, but that's going to warm that. Mesosphere, the only really thing you need to remember is that there's meteors found here, and then up in the thermosphere, you have radio waves, aurora borealis, and the International Space Station. Just as a heads up, aurora borealis is your northern lights. So I think you guys, most of you have heard of the northern lights before. The technical term is your aurora borealis. All right, so what you're going to be doing today is we have this column over here called characteristics and temperature trend. And so I'm just going to fill this out with you. I want you to put, obviously, some characteristics and some trends we have here. If you want to just pull your Google drawing up, you weren't supposed to submit it yet. I don't think so. It depends on your teacher, probably. But, so just double check with your teacher, should I have submitted this already or not. But you're going to go back into your Google Drive, you're going to pull this up, and then we're going to fill it out. So if you need to pause this video to go get your Google drawing out of Google Drive and up, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we're going to start writing stuff in our Google drawing. So if we're going to start at the troposphere, which I'm going to write that right here, what you're going to do is make sure you go over and you grab your text box, just click it, and then you're going to drag and pull open a little text box here. I'm going to make the text a bit bigger because from my glasses, I'm clearly, my sight is not awesome. So this layer, I'm going to write it again. It is your troposphere, so that we have that right there, super visible for you guys, especially because some of my stickers over here got in the way. All right, and I want to keep it the same format so that it looks kind of nice. I'm going to actually make this green, the box green, so that I know it's separate from the other stickers. The temperature trend, I say temp trend, as I go up, as I move away from the surface, say I'm in a hot air balloon or I'm in a rocket ship for some reason, I'm lifting off from Earth's surface, it's going to get colder. Or if I climb a mountain, you guys have experienced this before, it's going to get colder as you rise. So temperature trend, the trend here in this layer, it's going to decrease as you go up. Okay? Some characteristics. I'm going to say, well, we have weather here. Ooh, helps if I spell it right. And you're definitely going to have your convection currents here. Those are the big things that kind of set it apart from our other layers. As you guys are going to see, some of you will have a video that you're going to watch tomorrow. And you'll see that, or today, it depends on, again, it depends on your teacher. There's a guy who he shoots up in a rocket and there's like zero convection going on here. Alright, so it's very, I don't want to say tame, but it's not as turbulent as you would be in the troposphere. So, moving on. So again, troposphere, it's where we live. Oh, I could write that too. Weather and life. Ooh, life. There we go. Here, I dropped in a new thing. I'm gonna go to, I think, 24 for myself here. This is our stratosphere layer. What's our temperature trend? Well, if I was on that rocket, I went through the troposphere, the temperature is decreasing, it's getting colder from what we can see down here. I hit it says the ozonosphere. You don't need to remember that. You need to know that you're going to hit the ozone layer. And that's what's going to start warming up, so it's going to increase in temperature as you shoot up here. Alright, so temperature trend, it's going to increase in temp. And if that helps you to write that out, do it. It always helps me to write more out because I have the memory of probably a goldfish. So the more I write down, the better, the more helpful it is to me. Alright, so characteristics here. The main thing you want to know is, or some things that you might want to know, as we just said, hey, ozone. So it contains most of the atmosphere's ozone. And, you know, jets and manned balloons have been here. Alright, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that it all fits in here. Let's see. It's a little too small. Type that in. Boom, boom. Yeah, perfect. Beautiful. Alright, so, again, I'm just going to really quick bold that. You have the temperature trend, characteristics. I'm going to go back and bold that right here. Like that. Perfect. Alright. Gross. Now I have to make this smaller. Maybe not. Alright, cool. So, those are the main things with temperature trend for the two layers that affect us probably the most, and some characteristics we see there. Alright, so grab another text box, pop her in there. Bam. Alright. Make my letters a little bit bigger. Mesosphere. This is the layer we're on now. The temperature trend. As you can see, you're going to hit this layer right here. It's called the stratopause because the temperature stops, pauses. All right. Actually, each of these lines here, so this would be the tropopause, this is the stratopause, this is the mesopause. You don't really need to remember that. The main thing you need to know is, oh hey, we're in the mesosphere now, and what do we see with the temperature? As you go up, if you're in that spaceship, as you go up, it's going to get colder, 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 colder. This is the coldest layer. So it's going to decrease temp. All right. And then your characteristics, I just said one. All right. Coldest region of the atmosphere. Bam. All right. And then the other thing we already talked about, because your little sticker over here, is where you're going to find meteors. All right, the atmosphere, as space dirt comes in, or shooting stars, as space dirt comes into our atmosphere, is where the atmosphere finally gets thick enough that there's enough friction that it creates heat. That space dirt lights on fire. So if you've been wishing on shooting stars, you're actually just wishing on space dirt. Sorry about it. If you don't know, now you know. All right. Just pushing some of my words down, so I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. Here we go. I'm going to type it in 20. Gross. Let's do 22. Yeah, that's better. Okay. And then you have this huge area. The only reason this is really huge is because there's not a clear, like, here is Earth, here is space. So this exosphere, this is where we're getting pretty much into space. All right. So if you were wondering, why is that layer so thick even though there's not a ton of air there, it's just because it's hard to define where space begins and where our atmosphere begins. All right. Last one, the thermosphere. Think of temperature, it's hot. It's going to be your hottest layer, all right? And what we see with our temperature trend is, as in that space shuttle, as you're rising from Earth's surface up, 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 you're going to see you hit the mesopause, and suddenly the temperature is going to increase. It's going to get hotter, 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 hotter. So temperature increases at this layer. All right, so increases in temp. Whew, gets hot. All right. Our characteristics then. Well, there's not a lot of air here, all right? Air molecules are 1 kilometer apart, okay? So that's going to be a little bit less than a mile, but it's still, I mean, if you're up there trying to get air, you're going to have to do some work. Float on over to an air molecule, hope it's oxygen. And yeah, it's rough in that layer. All right. We could also write, here's where your aurora borealis, northern lights are. And of course, the International Space Station, which we all know is super cool. All right, I'm gonna bold that up. This is like all you really needed to know. These are the characteristics and the temperature trends. So just to sum up, one of the main things you should get is Each layer is defined by a different temperature trend.